Hello, welcome here to another week of Great Lakes Truck Series action. This week, some more road course racing, right and left-hand turns. Here we are at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, north of the border, Montreal, Canada, and I'm joined by Seth Cole. Seth, how we doing?
Doing good. I'm glad that you gave the correct pronunciation because I would have butchered it. I just cop out and call it Montreal. But yeah, good road course racing here north of the border of the United States here in beautiful Canada. And I kind of feel like the road courses get a bit of a bad rap in terms of people feeling it's going to get spread out. It's going to be a snooze fest. We're not going to see a whole lot of passing. I'm hearing a lot of drivers struggling here today, so it's going to be pretty exciting. I think these guys have their hands full.
Very difficult racetrack, very complicated road course here north of the border, but it should be a lot of fun. Of course, there's some of our really talented road course racers that we're going to be probably watching throughout the night, and that would include Zachary Henry, Hunter Madalinas, and Brandon Burkuski. But usually my partner up here in the booth, Alex Kolonix, he's down there on the track, number 26, starting on the front row. Seth, driver to watch out for tonight.
Yeah, he was really good in practice, too. He's putting together some good, consistent laps on the long run. So be expecting to see him up inside the top five for a good portion of this race. But he, along with a number of other drivers, I think like two of the biggest areas we're going to be having to focus on here today, especially if we see some side-by-side battles or some big clusters of cars, is down in the left-right-hander of 8-9. A lot of drivers kind of miss their braking zone there, overdrive it into the sand pit, and then that ever-crucial hairpin turn. That's kind of on the latter half of this road course, and it's a huge heavy braking zone. I've seen a lot of drivers really lock up the front tires there, so there's going to be some pretty treacherous areas here if we have side-by-side racing for position.
Very treacherous indeed here at Montreal. It looks like the green flag is already in the air here. Zachary Henry with the phenomenal start to the race, driver of the number 12 machine, still looking for that first victory. A great start to the race. Kolonix right there on his bumper. Josh Cottle immediately jumps into the third spot.
We have to remember, too, that this is going to be the last road course stop of the regular season. It's actually the third to last race of the regular season as well. So you talked about all those names we're expecting to see up here at the top of the leaderboard, your road course aces, if you will. It's their last opportunity to try and get a victory at a road course configuration before we begin the postseason, as we've already got one driver in trouble. That's Tyler Mcclellan. He's dropping towards the back. Actually, looks like he might be doing that of his own accord. Not certain if he got involved in something in the early going or not.
Yeah, maybe just taking it a little easy here on this first lap and just trying to stay back and out of trouble. I feel like that's the best way to do it here at the beginning, especially with this many cars. We usually don't have this many cars on road course races, but a pretty packed field here tonight at a very difficult racetrack, so a lot of drivers are going to maybe just try to get through this race clean and see what spots they can pick up.
Definitely are. Going back there on the Tyler Mcclellan machine, I believe that was turn 2. He got into the back of the 91 of Austin Moore. He's got some left front damage, so it got him a little bit off course. That's why he let a bunch of drivers go on by, right now riding in the 23rd position. So already out of the gate dealing with some damage here. And a lot of times you wouldn't expect that damage would affect the way that a truck handles at a road course, but we've got some pretty long straights here. We got a long straight after the hairpin heading down towards the final couple of corners. We got a long straight from the left-right of 6-7 to the left-right of 8-9. So you kind of want that optimal straightaway speed.
Here we are going to get a replay. It looks like Tyler Mcclellan here in the 95 Black Cat machine and just gets up into the wall and self-spins pretty much, gets back going and tries to get out of everybody's way, but a little bit of right rear damage on the number 95 after that little incident right there.
Tyler is trying to fight his way back up, now in a battle with Emilio Paredes, Shane Neiswanger, so he's trying to recover all the spots that he lost. Now, I guess I kind of said this back when these drivers are at Long Beach. If you're going to run into an issue at a road course, do it early so you've got the rest of the race to be able to mount a recovery plan. If you have a mistake late in the race, you're probably just not going to have enough laps to get yourself back up to where you were running.
I'm watching Mcclellan right now in this 95.
Oh, we got a big wreck here on the straight. See Austin Moore, Matthew Rodriguez, Matthew Durr, Emilio Paredes in the middle of that. Tyler McClellan, as his car is smoking. I think Paredes' car is also smoking. Rod Fastenau, I think, was also collected. We had about 7, 8, 9 trucks that were all just a parking lot there on that middle section, the back straightaway, if you will.
Definitely going to have to get a replay on that incident. Oh, and the Giant Tiger machine is around. You hate to see it. The Giant Tiger machine of Gavin Fitzgerald is spinning around here, and the Giant Tiger 200K gets back going in the number 14 machine without any damage.
Very lucky that he didn't tear up his equipment. There's not a lot of room for error here. There's a couple of runoff spots at Montreal, but a lot of areas you run into problems. You're going to end up hitting either a concrete wall or a steel guardrail, and that's just going to rip your truck apart. So these drivers have to make sure they don't put a wheel wrong, because this track will make you pay the price.
Oh yeah, this track definitely will make you pay the price, and it's hard to get back on track too. Just very tight quarters. You have to wait until everybody gets by. It's such a tight racetrack. Very difficult to get back on track if you spin out and you're up near the front of the field.
We were talking about the Giant Tiger sponsorship on the 14 of Gavin Fitzgerald. Another driver that's got the Giant Tiger sponsorship running in that third position, Josh Codlin. He's got his hands full. It's been a good battle between himself, Christopher Heller, and Madalinas for that third spot.
Sorry to interrupt you. We were looking at the replay over here, but yeah, that was the incident that took these guys out. Woodall smashed that wall awfully hard in that number 13 machine.
And it looks like Woodall has gone back to the garage area. Mcclellan has also done the same. Emilio Paredes pulled his car off the track off of turn 9, I believe it was, into the sand trap. He ended up using the teleportation back to pit road where he currently sits, trying to see if he can get that thing back out there. But he and McClellan, let's not forget, were both smoking when they left the scene of the accident.
Yeah, very, very difficult to have that much damage this early on in the race. It's really unfortunate to see that destroyed of a race truck this early on in the event. It's really disappointing, especially for a driver with the caliber like Tyler McClellan. Just to have that happen this early in the race, it's real unfortunate.
Watching Aston Lawson working his way up in the top 10. Just got by Brandon Barkuski moments ago, now up to P6. And let's not forget that the first road course race we had this season at Long Beach, Ashton Lawson was involved in a bit of controversy that led to a payback promise the following week at Bristol. So Ashton obviously looking for a little bit of road course redemption here today, but there's some fast trucks up ahead of him here that he's going to have to get around. First on his hit list would be the 9 of Hunter Madalinas, about maybe 2.5 truck lengths ahead. It's about to be another good battle, this time for 4th, as Madalinas is reeling in Christopher Heller.
I was talking about Madalinas right before we started the race. The big-time road course ringers that I know of that are currently in this field would be Madalinas and Lawson. Those are the two big names that are on these road courses. Henry has gotten really good at these road courses as of late, and he's doing really well here at the beginning. But Madalinas and Lawson have proven time and time again how strong they are on the road courses.
And Zach Henry, to your point, he finished 5th back at Long Beach. He was spending most of that race running around the 8th, 9th position. We had some of our leaders run into problems in the second half, and he was able to slowly work his way up inside of the top 5. But you're right, he's kind of one of those drivers that we haven't really taken a good look at in terms of his road course prowess, and he's putting it on display here today. I mean, what better time to do it as well? He's 5th in the overall point standings. He's trying to get up there to the points lead with only a handful of races remaining here in the playoffs, trying to give himself a good playoff seed.
Yeah, I've talked about Henry multiple times on how much he's just improved over around the last year. He's just improved as an all-around racer, but a lot of the credit I'd give his road course improvement to would be Nathan Nicholson, his teammate. Probably the best road course racer in Great Lakes competition. Unfortunately, not in this race today, but I know that they practice very often. They work very well together. So Henry may be taking up some tips from Nicholson.
Yeah, and that's such an important thing, too. I mean, we talk about the different big team factions here in the Great Lake Truck Series. We even saw last week at Charlotte, teammates get together across the start-finish line at Charlotte with Jake Miller able to just barely get that victory over Elliot Henderson. But that is a huge benefit of having teammates, because you may have one team that's really good at the super speedways, one team that's really good at the intermediates, another team that's really good at the road courses, and it gives you somebody to be able to lean on, to learn the tricks of the trade of those particular configured racetracks and apply it to your own racing style.
I'm keeping an eye on this number 26. Alex has been catching up just a little bit, it looks like this lap. That last lap, he was quite a bit slower than Henry, around a half second, but it looks like on this lap, he's just caught up just a little bit here and there. Alex, a very talented race car driver, especially on the road courses. So a lot of you watching are used to seeing Alex in the booth, but he's also a very talented race car driver, and he's a driver we're definitely going to have to watch throughout the race.
I think you got to cue the Jaws theme, because you're right, he is visibly closing up. Even our telemetry is showing that he's closing up. He was 0.4 of a second faster that time by. And, you know, he was talking about trying to mimic what Zach Henry was doing in practice and qualifying. That was from a third-party standpoint, a spectator standpoint. Now he's on the track running behind Zach Henry, and he's able to pick the areas where he's a little bit stronger than the 12 and try and figure out where he might be a little bit weaker than the 12 in some corners, be able to adapt. I think that that's a big reason why we're seeing him keep the 12 car of Zachary Henry honest, because he's got him right in front of him, able to see what the 12 is doing.
These drivers have put a good amount of space between himself and Cottle. Cottle actually looks like he just lost a couple of spots, actually. It looks like he fell back to the 6th position. Not exactly sure what happened to Cottle. He was in the 3rd spot just a moment ago. We're going to have to take a look at a replay and see maybe what had happened there. But currently, Heller is in that 3rd spot, around 5 seconds back of Alex Kolonix, and that would put him 6 seconds behind race leader Zachary Henry. Here we are. I think we're about to actually get a look at what happened here to Cottle here in a moment. Here we go. Josh Cottle here coming out of the first couple of corners right here in the number 32 machine, in that black giant Tiger machine, coming around the corner here. I think this is where we're going to see it right here in this little section right here. Cottle comes out of the corner and it looks like he just gets a little loose, and then he just kind of gets on the brakes and just gets out of the way. He doesn't want to risk being neck and neck and causing an accident, just drops back to the 6th spot. I think it's a very smart move this early on in the race.
I've seen that a couple times here in that area of the racetrack. McClellan did it earlier, ran into trouble and was getting out of driver's way. Same deal right there for Josh Cottle. I mean, that is smart. I mean, if you end up getting involved in a problem on your own, get loose, get on that rumble strip, unsettle the truck, last thing you want to do is then make a mistake trying to recover it and pull in front of somebody that's got better momentum than you. Just find yourself a spot in line, recover, and go back to work. So very smart racing there by the driver of the 32. And this battle for the lead, I'm giving it 2 laps, and I think you're going to have Kolonix on the back bumper of Henry, because he is continuing to close.
Yeah, Alex has been closing in lap after lap. He's a little under 8/10 right now behind race leader Zachary Henry, driver of the number 12 Undercurrents Toyota. He's right there. He has him in his grasp. And the question is, when he gets to him, how hard does he push? Does he get aggressive with him? You have to keep in mind, Zach here is competing for a championship, while the 26 is pretty much just trophy hunting out here today.
I think in that case, I think if you're Alex Kolonix, you're going for it. Zachary Henry, I think, is the one that has to decide whether he's going to race Kolonix hard for it or not. To your point, he's racing to make his way into the playoffs, get himself a good seed. So if he finds out that the 26 is faster than him, does he maybe move over and not risk the chance of maybe getting bumped out of the way and having that 12 truck all torn up? Because Kolonix definitely, he's eyeing that checkered flag, and he's only about 4 truck lengths, I should say, away from getting this race lead.
Alex is right there. Let's check that last time by. He was a little quicker, actually a little more than 2/10 quicker than race leader Zachary Henry. These drivers are currently a little over 6 seconds in front of 3rd place, Christopher Heller. Heller is still under pressure from Madalinas. Madalinas has not been able to snag that spot. And then hanging out in the 5th spot is Ashton Lawson.
Yeah, the 3rd place battle has been just as much fun to watch as that closing battle for the race lead. Christopher Heller's done a good job of keeping Hunter Madalinas in his rearview mirror. The reason he's been able to do that is he's been able to not only match pace, but he hasn't put a wheel wrong. There's not a whole lot of easy passing areas here at Montreal for Madalinas to be able to get around him unless the 11 makes a mistake. So good on Christopher Heller. I think he's probably looking out the windshield more than the rearview mirror, which is exactly what he has to do. You see Madalinas is going to show his nose here down the backstretch, try and get into the mind of Christopher Heller into this heavy braking zone of 8 and 9, but Heller is not going to adhere to that pressure.
I said it earlier, and I'll say it again. This track is difficult, but not just because it's technical, but because it's also a very thin racetrack. There's not very much space to make moves in these big trucks. There's not very many spaces on the racetrack. There you see Heller getting loose out of the hairpin there, and Madalinas is going to attack all over his bumper. They're going to be neck and neck coming down the fastest part of the racetrack here at Circus Gilles Villeneuve.
Got to be careful down here into the heavy braking zone. Right-hander coming around towards the start-finish line. Looks like Madalinas going to adhere the spot back to Christopher Heller. And just look at how those trucks, how they go over those rumble strips there. I mean, I think that the 11 trucks left sides were completely off the racing surface. It's hard enough to drive these trucks around the racetrack when all 4 tires are on the ground, let alone when just the right sides are touching the asphalt.
These trucks tend to get a little squirrely once they're in that sort of position. Not as bad as I would say the B-class cars or the A-class cars, that being the next gen and the Xfinity cars. I don't think they get quite as loose in those sort of situations. But these trucks, sometimes they can get out of control in those sort of situations.
We're talking about how difficult it is to pass here at a track like Montreal. The driver so far that's picked up the most spots since the drop of the green flag is Elliot Henderson, up 6 spots to the 12th position. He's got quite a bit of distance to make up before he gets to his teammate Jake Miller. He's got Trent Curtis and Steve McLean behind him, but Elliot Henderson's done a pretty good job of making his way towards the front, but you can definitely see it hasn't been easy. Looks like he's got some battle scars on the right side of that number 37.
Took the words right out of my mouth. I was about to say the exact same thing. Definitely some battle scars on that number 37 of Bobby Carter. Mr. Elliot Henderson.
Whoa! Sorry to cut you off. I just was following that battle for third again through the hairpin. Madalinas completed the pass, but then nearly looped it around. Had very little rear grip when he got back to the throttle. That thing was in a 4-wheel slide.
That's where Madalinas seems like he's shown the most speed, is in that hairpin coming down the long straight. He seems like he has a good amount of speed there, the number 9 machine. We're actually going to get a replay on his completed pass going through the hairpin. Driver, the number 9, Hunter Madalinas, as he makes the pass on Christopher Heller. Here you see him dive to the inside of the number 11, sends it, and the 11 kind of just gives him the spot at that point. The 9 tries to power off, gets a little loose, is able to get it back under control before going down the long straight.
Got to be a good dirt track racer to be able to hold on to that thing. I mean, that 9 truck was all sorts of sideways, and you know, that brings up an interesting point here as well. You know, the sun's been beaten down on this racetrack all day long. Track temp isn't exactly as high as we would expect, but with making these passes, racing as hard as these drivers are for position, you have to wonder just how much grip is going away in these Goodyear tires.
There's a lot of very tight corners, and a lot more brake is used here compared to other road courses. So you would have to think these tires are wearing out pretty severely right now at the moment. I would think that these drivers are going to maybe try to get to halfway and try to split this race in half if possible.
Like we've had a couple of drivers that have had some excursions here towards the back of the pack. Matthew Rodriguez looks like he overdrove turn 8. Kyle Hall had a moment over in the latter section of the course as well a couple of laps ago. Both of them are currently sitting on pit road trying to get some damage repair done. It is possible to be able to complete service, get back out, and remain on the lead lap, but it looks like for those two in particular, pretty extended stays on pit road. Rodriguez is going to go at least 1 lap down. Kyle Hall currently -2.
Rodriguez does have that damage from earlier with that incident, so maybe getting some repairs on that number 57 machine, that being Matthew Rodriguez. And here you see Henry still leading the field. Very strong run here in the beginning, but like you said earlier, Seth, Alex has really kept him honest. That number 26 machine of Alex Kolonix, he's just hung out right there and has not let him out of his sight since the drop of the green flag.
Yeah, he really hasn't. I mean, I think Zachary Henry, based off of the lap times we saw in practice and the lightning fast lap time he had in qualifying, thought that he might be on an entirely different planet from the rest of the field. But Alex Kalanick says, nope, I'm in the same zip code as you, buddy. And I think that maybe people might expect that the 12 of Zachary Henry isn't paying attention to Kalanick's, but I guarantee you, he's looking at that interval. He's comparing the lap times, seeing if Kalanick is reeling him in or not. At this point in time, I don't think Kalanick has really closed the gap up. I think he's been maintaining between the 4 and 5 car lengths we saw previously. I think right now he's just trying to equal the lap times of Zachary Henry, and that might be back to the point that I was talking about. Might have used up a lot of that rear grip on corner exit trying to close the gap between himself and Henry, and now he doesn't have enough grip to be able to close the gap up any further.
He's just kind of stayed around that half a second to a full second gap. Now he's a little over a second at this point. Not the greatest lap from the number 26 this time by, but he drove him down a little bit, and he drove to around a half second. Has kind of just hung out around half second to 0.6 seconds back of Henry, but now a little over a second back. Maybe tries to regather himself. And they are approaching some lap cars here fairly soon. It looks like Matthew Durr and maybe James Shiflett are up there.
Hopefully, much like we saw back at Long Beach, we'll see those drivers at the tail end of the lead lap adhere to the leaders and allow them by in a safe area of the racetrack, because we talk about how difficult it is to make passes here at Montreal. So hopefully we will end up seeing these drivers be able to make their way through traffic safely. I believe we had a couple of incidents back at Long Beach where we had some of the lap cars get in the way of lead lap cars and take away a good finish from them. Speaking of good runs, I've been kind of noticing drivers back in the latter half of the top 10. Brandon Barkuski dropped a couple of spots at the initial start of the race, but he's been holding down 7th. Hunter Brittle's just behind him in that 8th position. And also Brent Kincott and RJ Williams, you know, a couple of guys that we might not necessarily take a second look at when it comes to road course racing, but they've been doing a very good job up inside the top 10 for the last 8-9 laps.
RJ Williams, a very strong short track racer, and that sometimes that can translate over here to the road courses. Looking very strong here today. And then Brett Kincott, a very consistent driver last season, a very good race car driver, and showing how he can perform here on the road courses. But apparently, I'm hearing that we might have a replay on Matt Rodriguez's incident that he had a couple of laps ago. Driver of the number 57 and the Flatout Racing Network machine. Might have a replay on his incident a few laps ago. Driver the number 57 as he still sits on pit road. It looks like he just kind of cut over the corner right there and hopped over the rumble strips. Driver the number 57 coming out of the last corner, and then he's just really slow coming down the front straightaway into turn 1 right up here. Just kind of slides through.
And we got a driver on pit road. This looks like a regularly scheduled stop. Hunter Brittle. Like he's going to give up the 8th position to come down pit lane 13 laps into this run. Some more drivers coming down along with him. Elliot Henderson, Jake Miller, and Michael Sensi.
Like I said, if possible, I honestly was not sure of the fuel window of this race. These drivers might not be able to make it to the finish on the one more stop. But another thing to keep in mind, right now these drivers are race leaders, Zach Henry and Alex Kalanick. They're currently running laps 3 seconds slower than their quickest lap, and they're only 13 laps in. So these tires are getting very worn out very quickly. So some of these drivers might even be short pitting and trying to split this race off into 3, maybe even 4 pit stops.
You talk about that huge fall off there on the lap times. I think that's just as much the rear tires falling off with corner exit as the front tires in these heavy braking zones. As the tire heat builds up and the wear begins to be indicated on those front Goodyears, these drivers are backing up their corners into the heavy braking zones. Make sure they don't run into the same issues we've seen a couple of drivers have, especially over in 6-7 as well as the 8-9 combo. We showed you that replay with Matthew Rodriguez. Kyle Hall out of the race. I went back and looked at his incident a couple of laps ago. Almost the exact same area that Matthew Rodriguez had his problem. The issue, though, for Kyle Hall was when he overdrove that corner, the truck snapped loose and he sent it driver's side first into the tire barriers there. So that's why he has gone behind the wall. His day is done with all that damage, because those tire barriers, they look harmless, but You make contact with them, they will tear your truck apart.
And you see Eliot Henderson getting past Gavin Fitzgerald. Gavin Fitzgerald has yet to make a pit stop. Henderson is currently second out of the drivers that have made their first pit stop. The first driver currently being Hunter Brittle in the 12th position. But Henderson's been on the move all race. You talked about it earlier, Seth. He's gotten past Jake Miller. Jake Miller is that car right behind him. Henderson seems like he might have some speed here today at Circus Gilles Villeneuve in that number 37.
Elliot Henderson might be looking for a little redemption from last week at Charlotte, finishing runner-up to Jake Miller. Obviously been running very consistently here today. Didn't get the best of starting track position, but was about to crack the top 10 before he eventually came to pit lane. Henderson winless this season as well, trying to, if not win, point his way into the playoffs, as he is the second highest driver on the track right now with fresh tires. Hunter Brittle would be the highest, currently running in the 12th position. That will obviously change when we have more drivers hitting pit road up inside of the top 10, but I'm kind of wondering here if we might see the same strategy play out that we saw back at Long Beach. Some drivers maybe going with the two-stop strategy and some drivers going with just the one-stop strategy, because I think that if everybody was going to have to make 2 pit stops in this race, when we saw that half dozen drivers outside the top 10 come to pit road, we most certainly would have probably then seen Henry, Kalonix, Madaleno, and others come to pit lane to not lose that valuable lap time to the fresh tires.
And we're going to have a whole bunch of different strategies. That's how it kind of usually works on these road courses. Just depends on what you want. Do you want to maybe save some time by taking the one pit stop, or do you want to have the fresh tires and try to make up your time that way? It really just depends on what your strengths are and what you really want to do in that situation. A lot of these teams are probably going to be on the same strategy. Like these 25-11 guys are still out here. You have Zachary Henry, you have Christopher Heller, and Brandon Burkuski running in 1st, 4th, and 7th, like for example. So a lot of these teams are going to be on the same sort of strategy, I'm thinking, for the remainder of the race.
Tough break for the 51 of Trent Curtis. Not certain exactly what went on with him. Was watching him on pit road, extended stay. It looked like he went into turn 6 and then just pulled it onto the runoff and then teleported back to pit road. So not certain exactly why that happened, but he's now off the lead lap. Trent was running up around the 15th, 16th position before these pit stops began, so he was having a solid day.
And the 51 of Curtis was driving very well, and unfortunately had that happen, whatever had happened, and he's fallen all the way back to a lap down in that number 51 machine. But driver we're looking at right now is Brett Kingcod. We talked about him earlier. He's been on the move, and he continues to move up to the 7th spot. Just got past Brandon Burkuski in the number 25. So good run so far from Kingcott.
And we've seen
it's kind of pit road.
It's kind of been a running theme too. A lot of drivers setting up the pass down in that hairpin, but then getting really loose on corner exit. That's why Burkuski's going to get back to driver's left and try and outbrake him. Well, no, actually Burkuski's going to pit lane, so he faked me out.
Yeah, it looks like these drivers are going to do a 2-stop strategy. Everybody coming down pit road pretty much here at the front of the field, including Henry, Kalonix. You have a Heller back here. You have Cottle. You have a lot of good race car drivers on pit road. Henry out first. Kalonix out second.
It looks like Kalonix might have gained a little bit of time there on pit road. Oh, maybe not. I thought he was going to gain a couple of tenths there, but it stayed about the same. He was about 2.5 seconds behind Zachary Henry when they both came down the pit lane, and it has stayed around that now. Well, actually, now it's closing up here, as I think trouble getting around Brent Kingcott. Kingcott's the only driver now up inside of the top 8 that has elected to stay out an extra lap.
Kingcott leads the field, and he's fighting Henry a little hard, but Henry's now on his inside. He has the better lane, and Kingcott still fighting on that side, and they're going to be neck and neck, almost making contact there, and Henry's going to take away the race lead from the number 1 at Kingcott.
That was a bit of a treacherous place to have to try and make that pass through 6 and 7, but Henry now clear as he heads down through 8 and 9. Now Kalonix has to deal with the one through the hairpin. Trying to get to that right rear quarter panel. He should be able to get alongside here with the fresh tire grip down this straight, heading back for the start-finish line, and I think we'll probably see Kincott head for pit road this lap.
Kalanick's going to make that pass on the right side. Alex, can he clear him going into these last few turns? And Kincott's going to send it into pit road.
So now the gap between Henry and Kalanick is going to be 1.2 seconds. It was about 2.5 seconds prior to pit stop, so it looks to me like Kalanick has a very good truck in the early going, but Zachary Henry's got really good long-run pace, because that gap that we saw of anywhere from 3.5 to 4 truck lengths between those two in the early going, it continued to extend the closer we got to the pit stops coming about. As I think we've had a spinner, yes we have. Steven Sims has looped it around, as I believe he was trying to come to pit lane. He and Kincott were the last two that needed to come to pit road. No caution going to come out, but that was pretty close to where drivers would be entering into the final corner.
You were just talking about short run pace versus long run pace. I really think that these two drivers are just so even on both runs. We saw on the short run that Henry was able to pull away a little bit at the beginning, but then Alex drove right back on him after a few laps. And on that long run, the one thing I was noticing, Alex was able to put down better laps at points than Henry, but Henry was very consistent, had a consistently almost perfect run, especially at the end, was running very consistent lap times, as Alex was kind of jumping all around. Sometimes he was in the low 143s, sometimes he was in the low 144s. He was kind of not, he wasn't really running very consistent lap times at the end of that run, and Henry was able to pull away by a couple of seconds because of that.
Definitely seeing, oh, a little contact there between Henry and Kalanick. Heavy braking zone, and Kalanick took it a lot more aggressively than Henry, and that 26 has got some front end damage now around the grill area. I don't know how that's going to affect him. Little hello, I'm here, and I guess Henry understands that, going to let the 26 on by.
Couldn't really hear what they said, but they did have a quick discussion on the radio. It looked like Henry just really got on the brakes really hard, and then Alex was gonna send it through there and go really quick. So there's two completely different ways of taking those last two corners, and you saw what happened there. Alex now in the race lead. Alex Kalanick takes the race lead in the number 26 with that heavy nose damage, and Henry with very heavy bumper damage right behind him in second. We're gonna take another look at this incident going into the final two corners. There you see you're going to see here one moment, 1 second, my bad. We're going to set up this replay here. Here he is, Henry. Here you see Henry right in front of Alex in the number 26 machine, and Alex just gets in the back of him. You couldn't really see it from that angle, unfortunately.
I'll tell you what's really lucky, too, is the fact that it took place when they started to brake for that corner. If that had taken place when they were in the middle of the corner, more than likely we would have seen the 12 car around, maybe even the 26 car around. So it was a square bump. Granted, there was damage sustained on both sides, but it could have been a lot worse than what it's showing on the replay.
Now we're going to have to see this battle from the other way around. Alex now leads with Zachary Henry right behind him. Can Henry get up there and take the race lead back? And all this happening, Hunter Madalinas has caught up 3 seconds on our front two leaders because of this. Madalinas is only around 5 seconds back. He was 8 seconds back a few laps ago. There you see the driver of the number 9, and he is no slouch on these road courses. I've mentioned it before. He's such a great road course racer. When I started commentating here in the Great Lakes Series, he was pretty much known as a pure road course ringer. Of course, he developed his skills on other tracks, but road courses is his strong suit.
Madalinas finished third at Long Beach, and the last 2 laps on fresh tires, Kalanick and Henry ran in the 144 3s and 4s. Hunter Madalinas, he ran in the high 141s. So to your point, he is closing quickly. As a matter of fact, himself, Christopher Heller, Ashton Lawson, they've actually all been running in the mid to high 141s the last couple of laps. So they may be starting to close in on these top 2. We may not just have it a mano-a-mano in the final half of this race. And when we saw these drivers come to pit lane, it kind of makes me wonder when that final pit stop's going to be. I'm looking at it probably being somewhere in the vicinity of 15 to 17 laps to go, dependent on when drivers made that first pit stop. But if you can go a little bit further, I don't know if it's any benefit to take on those good years as late as possible.
I feel like it's always been, not always, but for the most part, we did see it last week. It's Eliot Henderson able to make the early pit stop and make it work. But for the most part here in Great Lakes competition, the later you pit, it's usually it's usually for the better. You have those fresh tires at the end of the race, and it's usually for the better. But I have been proven wrong before, but I think that's the best way to go. You go as long as you can on this tank of fuel, and then take those 4 fresh tires and finish up your race.
Well, I don't want to worry the top 2, but Hunter Madalinas, he can see the race leaders. What was it you said, about 4 seconds between him and the top 2? That's been cut in half. He is now only 2 seconds off the back bumper of second place Zach Henry. That 9 truck is flying.
And Madalinas is coming in a hurry, and he's running good lap times. He's running very similar lap times as he was on that first run, but the difference is Alex and Zach had that contact, and I'm very curious, is it the damage that's affecting these 2 drivers, or after that contact did both of these drivers decide to calm it down a little bit and take it easy on these tires and try to make it on the long run?
That's a really good point. I'm not certain if it would affect Zach Henry as much, because it's to the rear end of the truck. The only thing that it would really, I think, in some aspects affect would be that rear spoiler, which might cause a little bit more drag on the straights. But I am a little bit concerned about that front end damage on Alex Kalanick. I don't know just exactly how much of an effect is happening on the handling of that race truck. And I was following that entire lap on board with Hunter Madalinas. I'll tell you what I saw. To kind of quote our broadcast colleague, Scott Rankin, he was smooth like a milkshake. There was no counter steer. He knew exactly where his braking points were. He was able to attack the corners, got back to the throttle as soon as he wanted to. He just ran a picture-perfect lap there, did that 9 truck, and that's why the gap has been closed down to less than 2 seconds from the race lead. And he's bringing company, too. While he's running these good lap times, Christopher Heller and Ashton Lawson are doing the same. So what was a 1v1 battle in the early stages, we're about to throw a blanket over the top 5.
And Henry's trying to get back in the race lead. I saw him poking his nose. As y'all just saw on the screen, you did see Jake the Snake Miller whip it around, and he got back going in the 14th position. But we have a battle for the race lead. The number 26 and the 12 are going at it again, while that number 9 machine of Hunter Madalinas, we nickname him the closer, is closing in on this front 2 very quickly, a little over a second behind, as Henry's trying to get past Alex. Alex might be holding him up a little bit with that nose damage. We have 5 trucks here within 2.5 seconds of each other.
I think Zachary Henry is a little bit faster than the 26, and he knows it. He's trying to get around Kalanick so that way he doesn't have to defend against Hunter Madalinas, who is now right on his back bumper. We talk about how difficult it is to pass. Where do you pick your moments here to be able to try and get a position for the lead, for second, eventually for third and fourth? Because this is going to get very interesting through the hairpin. Kalanick leaves the door open for Madalinas to go to driver's right on Henry. Henry's going to get alongside of Kalanick, though.
Now we're really going to see if this nose damage is affecting the number 26. And the number 12 going to drive right past him on the outside, on the left side. And this is where it gets interesting. This is where they made contact before. Alex right behind the number 12, and did he give him a bump again? It came very close going in there. But Henry's going to drive away, and the number 9 of Madalinas gets held up by Kalanick coming out of the final corner. Now Madalinas dives to the left side, and he's going to clear him going into turn 1. I really think this nose damage is affecting him, Seth.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I don't know if it's the fact that it's hindering his straightaway speed, maybe the way that I'm looking at the splitter, maybe the left side of the splitter might be dragging on the racetrack, but it has definitely affected how that race car's speed is as opposed to how it was in the early stages of this race. So now Alex Kalanick, I think he's just kind of in ride mode, in survival mode, trying to see where he's going to be positioned at the end of the day inside of the top 5. He's got Christopher Heller and Ashton Lawson right there behind him.
Heller and Lawson are at to find a way around him quickly. You saw Henry right when he got past Alex. He kind of drove away a little bit. He put a little distance between himself and Madalinas. Now the number 26 right in front of the 11 of Heller. Where does Heller maybe make a move. I think his best shot is coming out of the hairpin on that long straight.
I think you nailed it right there. I think it definitely would be the hairpin, the place to set up the pass for third place. It's all a matter of how Colonix, where he brakes going into this corner, braked a little bit early. Heller drove it in deep, but it doesn't look like he's going to be able to get back to the throttle in time to stay to the right rear, so he'll have to try and set Colonix up heading for turn one.
Yeah, Alex was able to get out of the hairpin with great speed and was able to put a little distance between himself and Heller, where Heller can't make the pass here on the long straight. He's just not close enough. Gonna check the speeds at the line, but Henry has put a decent amount of distance between himself and Madalenas ever since he made that pass. Has extended that lead by around a half a second ever since he made that pass. That last time by, yeah, Henry was almost a full second quicker than Madalenas in second place. And I think that was his quickest lap on this run so far. Ran a 142.7, has been running mainly in the 143s and 144s on this run so far.
Yeah, the timing of his pass there on Colonix was exactly when he needed to get the lead back, because if he hadn't gotten around the 26, we more than likely would have seen Hunter Madalenas in P1. Now starting to open up that gap back to Hunter Madalenas, and there's nothing in it as far as who's got the fresher rubber, because everybody up here inside of your top 5 are all on the same number of laps on their Goodyears.
Everybody on the same strategy. You saw all these drivers when they came down pit road, they're on the exact same strategy. And here you see Elliot Henderson coming down pit road here. He's getting 4 fresh tires, and he's going to be one of those drivers that's making the 3-stop strategy, it looks like. Because these tires wear out very quickly, so it could possibly be a very good strategy from the driver of the 37.
Yeah, very interesting call there. He was running in the 10th position before he came to pit lane. Looks like he's going to leave in the 15th position. This is going to be interesting to see how it plays out there, because I definitely knew we were going to see drivers come to pit road at least twice. I didn't think anybody would be bold enough to go with the 3-stop strategy. But, you know, in the case of Elliot Henderson, he comes into this race 14th in the point standings. He's got a good shot of making his way up into the playoffs with 3 races remaining, including here tonight, as Colonix had his hands full there going into 12 and 13. But, you know, why not try it? If you're not all that great at a road course, if you're decent but not up there with the top-tier road course drivers, try something a little bit different in terms of strategy, because you never know. It might gain you a couple of spots by the time the checkered flag waves.
Driver I've been watching the last couple of laps has been Ashton Lawson, able to get past Heller that last time by, and now that giant tiger number 24, he's approaching Alex Colonix, the driver the number 26, to make that pass and move into the podium position of third. Gets very sideways off that corner, the driver the number 24, but you're looking back at Lawson right there as he's closing in on the number 26.
You see these drivers riding it right up on the rumble strips in a couple of these corners. Those rumble strips, they're not necessarily there to allow you to be able to make it around the corner. They're not even really there to be able to help you to be able to get grip while trying to make a pass. If anything, they're just kind of there as guidelines, showing you the boundaries between the racing surface and the grass area. I thought I saw some smoke right there through a 6 and 7. Not sure exactly who it was that went around, but either somebody locked up the brakes or somebody spun just not too long before the race leaders went into that vicinity.
Continue to watch Lawson. He hasn't really been able to quite get to the back bumper. The number 26, some good battles right here. It looks like Steven Sims and the number 6 and the number 49 of Shane Neiswanger battling back here for the 16th position. They got Eric Kep, Mr. Pink, driving the Giant Tiger number 63 this week. All of Spectrum driving the Giant Tiger cars this week, with this being the Giant Tiger 200K. We talk a lot about Giant Tiger here on the Flatout Racing Network here for great. Oh, wow, Madalenas. What happened there? Look like Madalenas may have overshot a corner or something. Maybe pulled a Chastain there.
Yeah,
Take a look at the replay.
Yeah, I think he overdrove turn 1. Wait, it's almost like that truck didn't want to turn. I'm not exactly certain exactly what went on there. The front wheels never turned to the left.
Taking a look at it here, and Madalena's just didn't want to turn. He might have hit the brake at the wrong time. Something happened right there. But now we have a battle for the third spot. Lawson just got past Colonix, and now he's going for the second spot. About to get past Hunter Madalenas. After Madalenas went off track, he popped back on track right in front of the number 24 of Ashton Lawson. Good battle is now on for the second position. Alex right there as well. Christopher Heller not too far behind as well. And Josh Cottle, he has entered the picture. He's caught up to these drivers by a couple of seconds.
And also add Brent Kincott possibly into that mix. He's not that far behind. Actually, correction, that's not Brett. That's another, I think it's a lap machine there, actually.
Yeah, Kincott's 20 seconds back with Cottle right
yeah.
now.
That was the one truck. Going back to the Ashton Lawson machine, oh my gosh, Zachary Henry. I think all 4 tires came off the racing surface that time when he hit the rumble strip. But Ashton Lawson, remember back, he was the runner-up finisher at Long Beach, led a race-high 26 laps in that event, but wasn't able to close out the deal. And here he is with about almost 20 laps to go, up here inside of the top 3, and maybe one of the faster trucks inside of the top 5 at this point in time.
Very curious right now on what's going on with lap times. These drivers just kind of racing around one another has just slowed down their lap times immensely. Right now, that last time by, of course, Madalena's had his issue with almost a 1:48, 1 minute 48 second lap, but then you have Lawson with the 1:46. You got Alex Colonix almost running a 1:47. That's almost 6 seconds off their quickest lap time pace. These drivers are racing around each other, and it's definitely slowing down their race pace, and that's why you have a driver like Josh Cottle driving up on him so quickly.
Yeah, back to your point there. I mean, Josh Cottle, that last time by, ran a 1:44.1. That's about the lap times we saw drivers hitting when they were 15, 16 laps into their last run. We're only 10 laps into this stint, and they're already hitting those lap times. So yeah, with it being a lot more congested, we're starting to see these lap times be longer and longer, and I think that we're going to continue to see that here if we end up having things even more congested after that final round of pit stops.
There you saw RJ Williams completing his pass on Brandon Burkuski. Here's Eric Kep back here in the 63. I was mentioning a moment ago how much we talk about Giant Tiger here on the program. We appreciate their sponsorship of this race. Giant Tiger, of course, being a discount store north of the border in Canada, has many stores, and they work very closely with Spectrum. Gavin Fitzgerald is their driver, and they're putting on a good show, these Spectrum guys, Giant Tiger guys here today.
They definitely are. Gavin Fitzgerald right now back in the 15th position, doing a good job. He had a little bit of a moment in the early going of this race, but since then he's done a nice job of keeping himself on the racetrack. And Cottle currently in that 6th spot. I think we had a pass for position.
Alex Colonix just got past Ashton Lawson. I think he even maybe gave him a little bit of a bump when he went past them going through turns 1 and 2. Driver with the number 26 able to complete that pass on Mr. Ashton Lawson and move back into the 3rd spot. Colonix has that damage, but I mentioned at the beginning of this run, both him and Henry were taking it super easy, and Henry's kind of driven away at this point because he took it so easy at the beginning of the run. And maybe Alex, maybe these tires, him saving these tires has really helped him.
Yeah, he snookered me in for sure, because I thought that when Henry got around him and you had Madalenas and Lawson and Heller breathing down his neck, that more than likely he was going to drop back to the 5th position and just try and hold on to that final spot inside of the top 4. But no, he's been able to hang with these guys, just made that pass on Ashton Lawson. So while he may not win a beauty contest with the front end of that truck, that thing still has the speed in it, and to your point, may actually have a little bit more grip than everybody else as well. Might have been preserving those good years for the long run. And I have to wonder if maybe that might have been something he learned when he was running behind Zach Henry in the early going of this race. Because remember, we saw Henry begin to open up the gap the longer the run went on. So Colonix might have gone to school behind the 12 truck of learning how to preserve those tires the longer the run goes.
This battle between Lawson and Colonix definitely isn't over. They're racing very aggressively with one another ever since they've been around each other so far this race. And Lawson's right there, and he's within striking distance, but he has Heller right behind him as well, and he has to keep that in mind. Of course, Lawson not having the best relationship with 2511, so he's going to really defend that position against Heller as he tries to attack Alex at the same time.
So there's 3 drivers in your running order we have to keep an eye on here that are the front runners of the 3-stop strategy. Hunter Brittle in the 10th position would be the first. We saw Elliot Henderson on pit road about 5 laps ago. He is the second, and Michael Sensi in the 92 in the 14th position. Those 3 drivers are currently on the 3-stop strategy, and a reason why they're kind of doing that is they're taking advantage of the fresh tires, yes, but the field is so spread out that when they come to pit road, they're only losing about 2, 3, maybe 4 spots on pit lane before they merge back out onto the racetrack. So the fresh tires are giving them a net gain on positions than the positions they lose when they come to pit lane to get said tires.
I'm just really keeping an eye on Henry. Henry's been stuck behind Austin Moore. He cannot get past him. Just watching Henry, and he just can't quite get past Austin Moore. And now he's diving to the left side, going into 1. Can he finally get past Moore here? He cannot. Austin Moore is fighting very hard here. He overdrives the corner, it looks like, even there. Now we'll let Henry by.
I'm almost wondering if maybe Austin Moore was holding up the 12, trying to find a safe place to get out of the way. There is that runoff there in turn 1, and that might have been the place he designated to let Henry get past. But while that was all going on, that allowed Hunter Madalinas to close up a little bit. It was about 2.5 seconds. He gained about 2 or 3 tenths when Henry was having that exchange with the 91.
Madalinas able to catch back up a little bit, still a little over 2 seconds behind race leader Zachary Henry, and Alex Kolnick's catching up to both these drivers a little bit right now. That last time by was a little slower than Henry, but he was a little over 4 seconds back not too long ago, and now Alex around 3.8 seconds back of the race leader.
I have to chuckle too. I'm seeing a couple of areas around this racetrack, especially off the hairpin. Of course, Montreal, a very well-known Formula 1 road course, and I keep seeing a couple of signs that say DRS. I mean, can you imagine with what we've seen here today if these trucks had DRS to try to be able to get up and make a pass?
Yeah, this is a Formula. You said it there. It's a Formula 1 track, and that's one of the reasons why it's so thin. And I couldn't imagine using DRS in these vehicles. That would just be insanity. It's already insane enough.
So Henry's continuing to go to work on lap traffic. The leaders just got around James Shiflett a couple of laps ago. Austin Moore we saw get put a lap down. Looks like next on the hit list for the driver of the 12 would be, I believe that is the 2 of Matt Durr.
Durr's just going to get out of the way here. He saw him coming and just moved over to the right and lets him right on by. He's going to pull right back on the track right in front of Hunter Madalinas. Does he give Madalinas the same opportunity? He will. He'll move right out of the way of Madalinas and all the competitors. Almost stops on the racetrack. He will stop on the racetrack, actually.
So now the good news, if you're the driver of the 12, is it got roughly about 20 seconds before you catch up to the 63 of Eric Kempf, who is right now 18th, last truck on the lead lap. But to kind of put that into perspective, the straightaway that you have between the left-right combination of 6-7 and the left-right combination of 8-9, by time Zachary Henry enters onto the beginning of that straight, Eric Kempf is finishing that straight going into turn 8. So there is still some distance before Zach Henry is going to catch up to some more drivers. You've also got Steven Sims in that mix. Jake Miller is in that vicinity along with Gavin Fitzgerald. But with 17 laps to go and the pace that's being set right now by the race leader as opposed to those drivers near the tail end of the lead lap, I think he's going to catch them before that checkered flag.
Thing I'm watching for now is pit stops. I'm going to wait to see which drivers are going to come down pit road first out of our front 5. I know one of them is going to come down quickly, and I think that was Madalinas that just jumped down pit road. It was Hunter Madalinas. I expected one of these guys to at least come down quickly to try to get the upper edge and maybe short pit it and make it work. And it looks like Lawson came down as well, along with Josh Cottle. So 3 out of our front 6 come down pit road this time.
Right in the middle of when they were projected to make their final pit stop of the day, so we won't see them on pit road for the remainder of this race. They're going to go out there and they're going to have to deal with what they've got. Gavin Fitzgerald was on pit road the lap prior. He was pretty much the first one to start this round of green flag pit stops.
There you see Madalenas pulls out, and the 24 of Lawson right there behind him. Cottle around a second or two back of those two. They're going to pull right back onto the racetrack. And now at this point, they need to put down some great laps and try to make up as much time as possible and put distance between themselves and Zachary Henry, as Henry has yet to come down pit road.
And we saw Henry and Kolonix stay out pretty much the longest of anybody when the first round of green flag pit stops took place. But I'm almost wondering now if Henry's hand is forced, if he's going to absolutely have to come down pit road this time to counter the fresh Goodyears put on by the 9, by the 24, by the 32. I'm also wondering just how much TLC takes place to the rear end bumper of that machine. It doesn't look like it's hindered his speed at all after he got back out to the race lead, so I think I would leave it alone.
Yeah, I think I would leave it alone as well. Alex might stay and get a little repairs, but I'm not sure. And here comes Zachary Henry, comes down pit road to get those 4 fresh, good years and try to keep up with the drivers that just came down the lap before. Alex Kolonix comes in right after him, and here comes Christopher Heller coming down as well. The other 3 out of the front 6 come down. One of these 6 drivers is most likely going to be your winner here today at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, aka Montreal, for the Giant Tiger 200K, and this might win the race. Pit road.
Oh my goodness, we nearly had ourselves a moment there. Just past the start-finish line. Actually, no, correction, that was over in the 13. Hunter Madalenas caught up to the 2 of Matthew Durr, and he had to jump the rumble strip there on driver's left to avoid running into the back of Durr. Ashton Lawson then had to take evasive maneuvers to the right side of that 2 truck. That was very nearly the 9 taken out of this race. As a matter of fact, now he's got Ashton Lawson right on his back bumper. Boy, the top 5 landscape nearly just changed right there.
And Henry's way out in front. We have a 3-way battle now for the 2nd spot. Lawson and Madalenas racing each other very hard. Alex Kolonix right there behind Madalenas. This is some good racing here, and Heller and Cottle not too far behind. Zachary Henry has a 5-second advantage in the number 12 machine.
I don't know if this thing gets settled out, if we're going to be able to go back and show you guys a replay of what happened there with the 9, because my goodness, my heart stopped for a brief moment there, and the 9 went for a wild ride as well. All 4 tires off the racing surface. But now dropping back to that 2nd spot, so the new hunter is that 24 of Ashton Lawson. He's got 1 lap fresher tires than Zach Henry in terms of up to speed, but the longer the run goes on, he will have 1 lap older tires than the 12. So we'll have to see which side of the spectrum, the shortcut or the long run, is going to be the advantage for either driver.
I think if Henry can keep himself clean and just stay out of trouble in that number 12 machine, he has the 1 lap fresher tires and he has the big advantage. At this point, he just needs to take it easy and keep himself out of trouble, and he might finally be able to snag that win. I would not 100% count out Madalenas or Lawson either. They've shown a lot of speed. Alex Kolonix has shown a lot of speed as well, but I feel like the damage is affecting him, especially on the short run.
Yeah, before when we saw the battle between Henry and Kolonix, I think that Henry was definitely keeping an eye in his rearview mirror. Now, your eyes are glued to the windshield. They are glued to the lap times. You're not even looking at the interval between you and 2nd place. You're just out there trying to hit your marks and hoping these are going to be the fastest 14 laps ever run at Montreal.
We saw how quick Madalenas was in that last run, especially at the beginning portion of the run. He fell off pretty hard at the end of the run, but that beginning portion of the run, he was definitely the quickest out of our front 6 drivers.
Final pit stop of the day being made by Elliot Henderson and Michael Sensi, so this is their 3rd pit stop on the 3-stop strategy. Still waiting for Hunter Brittle to come down pit road for what we're going to be assuming is going to be his final pit stop of the day, and that battle for 2nd into the hairpin. Adelinas showed the nose there. He's going to get alongside, exiting the hairpin, heading for the front straight.
Like I said, these two have been racing really aggressively with one another. The driver of the number 9 and the driver of the number 24 of Madelinas and Lawson. And Madelinas going to shut the door on Lawson going into the final 2 corners here. Let's see what Lawson does. Does he maybe try to send it, or does he take it easy into these last 2 corners? He will. He'll take it easy and try to reapproach that battle. I'm also hearing that we might actually have a replay on the Madelinas incident a few laps ago, where he almost wrecked with Matthew Durr amongst some other drivers. Here we are we're gonna.
If Madelinas ends up finishing podium in this race, that is going to be an interesting question to ask him in post-race interviews of what was going through his mind when he encountered the two in this area of the racetrack.
You see Matthew Durr, and he spins it and just tries to spin it back around and get back going, and wow. And that's Tony Hawk right there.
It is.
Oh my goodness, very close call for Madelinas and Lawson as well. In that situation, they were able to continue, and now they're battling it out for the second spot. Number 26 still right there as well. They've put some distance between Heller and Cottle. They're pretty good far away back in 5th and 6th, and they're 5 seconds back of Henry. They haven't really been able to cut down the lead at all on Zachary Henry.
It's interesting when you look at these 3 drivers right now up front, all of them trying to make their way into the playoffs. All 3 of them have shown today, and they've shown in the past as well, just how good they are at the road courses. Henry, Madelinas, Lawson, all winless this season, all still looking for their first checkered flag of season 6. And it might come down between those 3, but the spoiler to this party could be that 26 of Alec Kolonix. I was watching to see if maybe he spent a little extra time on pit road to get that front end damage repaired. Nope, just a regular 4-tire pit stop, and he's putting the pressure on Ashton Lawson for 3rd place.
Yeah, it was very questionable coming out of the hairpin there. Alex was able to get alongside the number 24 of Lawson, and Lawson was trying to throw the block on Alex, and it looked like he pretty much almost blocked him into the grass. Alex ended up letting off and letting Lawson have the spot, and Kolonix almost gets in the back of Lawson going through 1 and 2 right there. Maybe not too happy with Lawson after that move. Oh, it looks like someone went through the grass. It looked like that was Madelinas that went through the grass. He's gonna have to slow down a little bit.
And he's going to now get reeled in by Lawson and Kolonix, who were in a side-by-side battle for 3rd place. Man, that is such a tough part of the racetrack to go double wide, and they managed to do it. I believe it was in turns 3, 4, and 5. That was a very sketchy area for double wide. Now they're going to carry it down here. Wow. But you have to you have to have trust in the drivers you're racing around to be double wide in a tight area of the racetrack like there, having to be aware of each other's braking zones, exactly what line you're going to take on entry, what line you're going to take on exit to not make contact. I mean, these guys have done this enough to be able to know how to handle their truck through the corner, but they've also got to have a bit of faith in the driver they're battling that they're not going to screw up as well.
I'm not sure if there was any faith right there, Seth. These 2 drivers are just really aggressive with one another at the moment. You saw a decent amount of contact between Kolonix and Lawson when Lawson was able to complete the pass, and Kolonix sent it through the hairpin. It looked like he might have even tried to get him in the bumper coming through the hairpin. He's right there. These 2 are racing really hard and really aggressive with one another, and with this going on, Heller is caught up to both of them, and there he is. He gives him another bump. Alex is right there. These 2 are not happy with each other. They're racing very hard right now for that podium spot.
Well, I've mentioned it. We had some hurt feelings after the road course race at Long Beach. Heavy braking zone, so it's just like going into a corner at Bristol or Martinsville. If someone's rubbed you the wrong way, plenty of opportunity to be able to exact some payback. This battle for 3rd is going to continue between the 24 and the 26. And while they're kind of exchanging sheet metal, I've been surprised that Hunter Madelinas hasn't been able to put distance between himself in this battle for 3rd. They're still within striking distance of the 9.
Maybe Madelinas learned something on that last run, because he hasn't really pulled away at all. Maybe he's trying to take it easy and maybe go hard at the end of the run, because Henry's a little over 6 seconds back, but Henry's also been putting down some good laps. Now they're going to go back and forth for third here.
Yeah, Kalanick's got himself a nice exit there through one of those sections. I think that was 8 and 9, and he's going to clear for the third position going into the hairpin, Ashton Lawson. So now Kalanick sets his sights on Hunter Madalinas for the runner-up position.
Kalanick looks like he has a decent amount of speed right there. Was struggling to complete the pass on Lawson, but now he's completed the pass on Lawson. Is he able to maybe pull away from the number 24 and challenge the number 9 of Madalinas for the second spot here in the late goings with 10 coming to 10 laps remaining this time by?
I don't know what adjustments Kalanick's made between the last run and this run. The last run, he was one of the best trucks on corner entry in the braking zones. Now, all of a sudden, he's gotten some really good exits off the corner, and that's how he was able to get around the 24 of Lawson. That's why he's reeling in the 9 of Hunter Madalinas. You see right there, got a nice exit out of turn 1.
He's really putting it on the driver, the number 26. He's right there on Madalinas at this point, caught up to him fairly quickly. The driver, the number 26 machine, gets a little in the grass, it looked like right there, put 2 left side tires in the grass. I don't know if iRacing's asked him to slow down for that one, but it doesn't look like they have, because he's all over Madalinas' bumper.
Almost into his bumper there as they traverse their way down towards the backstretch, we call it here at Montreal. Shows the nose to driver's left to try and take a wide entry down here into 8. Oh, he's gonna, I don't know if he got into the back of him or not. It was close, but it definitely messed up his entry. Madalinas, I think he went a little faster through 8 and 9 than he was expecting, but he was able to open up some daylight.
Madalinas able to put a little distance between himself and the 26 momentarily. Now Lawson's right there within striking distance of the 26 once again. Can Lawson get to Kalanick's bumper and maybe make something happen? Or will Alex be able to drive back away and get up to the number 9 of Madalinas? Heller is not too far behind these guys. He's caught up a decent amount with all the battling going on. He's around 2 seconds back of the number 26 right now.
This has been a lot of fun to watch the last few laps, and it's a shame that this is for the second spot because not a lot of TV time going to the guy that's dominating right now, Zachary Henry. This battling going on 7 seconds behind him as it's less than 10 to go for driver number 12.
Number 26 right there. Alex Kalanick's right there on the number 9 of Madalinas. Just he needs to find an opening and find somewhere to go. It's going to be difficult to complete this pass on this portion of the racetrack. And he has Lawson right there. And all 3 of these guys have actually been racing really aggressive with one another. A very aggressive race. I'm surprised that none of them have spun out to this point, but you see the damage on some of these vehicles.
Well, I mean, don't say that yet, because the laps are continuing to tick away. The closer we get to that checkered flag, the more contact we'll see exchanged, and it may be one bit of contact too many, as might have been a little contact right there with Kalanick's to the right rear of Hunter Madalinas. Madalinas going to go wide there through turn 8 into 9. Now tries to maybe pull a crossover off the exit of turn 9 coming down to the hairpin.
Yeah, it looked like Madalinas tried to throw a little bit of a block, and Alex was able to complete the pass for now, but Madalinas is all over his bumper going into the hairpin, and now he's going to be on the inside. It looks like Kalanick's overdrove the hairpin, but he's going to get out of the hairpin with immense speed. A lot of speed out of the 26 coming out of the hairpin, and he's going to be able to put a little bit of distance between himself and the 9 on the long straight.
And Madalinas tried to get back to the throttle, back end of the car. The rear tires would not take, and so he is going to fall back to third. Ashton Lawson's got the best seat in the house right now, watching this ongoing battle for third place. And as these 3 have been mixing it up, Christopher Heller has been slowly reeling them in. Right now holding down that 5th position, but maybe looking to pick up a couple more spots up inside of the top 5 as we've now hit 8 laps to go. Continues to be the 12 of Zachary Henry, who's having to deal with some more lap traffic. That, I believe, is the 14 of Gavin Fitzgerald going a lap down. Just behind him, you've got last week's winner, Jake Miller, who's gone a lap down. Eric Kempf and Steven Sims, they were put a lap down about 5 laps ago, so a lot more traffic for the race leader to have to deal with. Good thing he's got that almost 7-second cushion.
Oh, man. It looked like Lawson just kind of moved Alex Kalanick out of the way right there. Oh, man, and like I said, these 2 have been going back and forth. And I expect him to come right on back and maybe bump him right back out of the way. These two continue to go back and forth, and Madalinas is going to pretty much check out because of this.
That's exactly what happened there. Contact from front bumper of the 24 to the back bumper of the 26 as they were making their way through, I believe that was turn 5, through the S's section. And yeah, if Colonix can get back there to the 24, you may see some more contact exchange between those two. And Christopher Heller now in this vicinity also. If I'm Heller, I might want to throw my hands up and say, hey, you guys go at it. If you end up spinning, I'll go on by you. But I'm not sure I want to get mixed up in this because you're right, there has been quite a bit of sheet metal exchange between these two drivers.
You can look at their race cars. You can see how much damage they have. Of course, Alex has most of that nose damage from the number 12 of Henry, but pretty much every other little bit of damage on that machine is from the number 24 of Lawson. And same thing with Lawson. Most of his damage is from the 26 of Alex, and some of it's actually from the number 9 of Madalinas. So those three, especially the number 26 and 24, have just been so aggressive with one another throughout this event.
We talked about it at the top of the show, just how difficult it is to make passes here. So sometimes you have to use your truck to be able to move people on out of the way. As looks like Christopher Heller is going to get around Colonix, and he'll move up to the 4th spot. Really, out of our entire top 5, that 11 truck looks to be the most pristine. Little bit of damage, it looks like, down there near the grill section of the hood, but aside from that, we know the 12's got damage on the back end. We know that the 9, the 24, the 26, they've been exchanging sheet metal. That 11 truck looks like it might be the cleanest truck right now up here inside of our top 5.
Now they're able to complete the pass on the number 26, and he's going to try to maybe put some distance between himself and Alex. And right when I say that, he gets loose. He's going to cut through the grass. He's going to have to slow down here, give up the spot. Alex Colonix, and he's going to fall back to maybe into the clutches of Josh Cottle. Heller might fall out of the top 5 here in the last few laps.
And Josh Cottle, though, if you look at the lap times, he's been anywhere from 2 to 3 seconds slower than Christopher Heller, and you can see when Heller was able to get back up to speed after giving up the time he gained with cutting through 8 and 9, he was able to keep the 32 in his rearview mirror. So I'm not certain if Cottle's going to be able to capitalize on snagging that final top 5 position.
Really keeping an eye on this potential battle for second. Lawson's not too far behind Madalinas. That last time by, Madalinas was quite a bit quicker than Lawson, but Lawson also had his battle with Alex Colonix on that lap. I have to check the times this time by, but it looks like Lawson almost a full second quicker than Madalinas, so he's driving down Madalinas for that second position.
Yes, indeed, and as these two continue to battle, that just continues to widen the smile on Zachary Henry's face. You know, we talk about how difficult it is to traverse this racetrack, and a little surprising stat that just jumped out at me. 3rd fastest lap set today is by our race leader Henry, 141.229. 2nd fastest lap by Hunter Madalinas, a 141.175, but Christopher Heller has got the fastest lap of the day, 141.154. I'm not necessarily certain I would have had Heller up at the top of our speed chart in terms of fastest lap set today.
Heller has won a road course here before in Great Lakes competition. I want to say it was Circuit of the Americas. Not necessarily the greatest road course driver, but he's very consistent. He's usually up in the top 5, top 10 at these road courses. And like I mentioned earlier with Henry, he is also part of 2511 Racing, and 2511 Racing work really hard on their road courses, especially with Nathan Nicholson over there. They work really hard on their road courses, and that's maybe what we could be seeing right there. And it looks like somebody went around. I can't make out who that was. I think that was Steven Sims went around in the number 6.
Yeah, Sims has been dealing with some connection issues here for the last 15 laps or so, and that was indeed the 6 that went around. Looked like that was over in turns 8 and 9, as kind of hard to tell looking back here exactly what happened. Almost kind of like his left front might have locked up, and that's what looped it around. It was right in front of Eric Kemp. That was a good battle that was going on for the 17th position, but now Kemp obviously very firmly in control of that spot.
This is the closest battle on track right now. It's Fitzgerald versus Jake Miller. We haven't really talked too much about either of these drivers today. They've been running around 15th to 10th most of the race. Miller, of course, had his spin earlier. I think Fitzgerald went around earlier as well. So both these drivers have had their issues, but today they're running 15th and 16th right now, one lap down, competing for this spot to get into the top 15. Definitely a disappointing day for Jake Miller, to say the least.
Yeah, Jake, of course, with that victory last week at Charlotte, that photo finish, gained 7 spots in the standings, 14th in points coming into this race, and Gavin Fitzgerald also gained spots last week, up 5 to 18th in the point standings, but both of them running right now outside of the top 10. Be interesting to see where they're situated points-wise heading into next week, with, after this, only 2 races remaining, as that was the 28. I just noticed some smoke there in the hairpin, locking up the brakes, James Shiflett, as he was getting out of driver's way. We talked about the strategy there for Elliot Henderson, trying the 3-stop strategy. Well, it's got him to the 14th position, but he has gone a lap down now to Zachary Henry, so it didn't gain him nearly as much as originally I thought it might. Just Zachary Henry on that 2-stop strategy has just been that much faster.
Henry has shown his speed all race long, quick in qualifying, quick in practice, and very quick here in the race. A dominating performance so far from this number 12 machine with just a few laps remaining. Has a little under 8-second advantage over second place driver Hunter Madalinas, as you see him right there. He's currently in between Gavin Fitzgerald and Jake Miller, which is the battle for 15th I was mentioning a moment ago. And we'll have to see if Fitzgerald maybe gets out of the way of the number 9 here, or maybe puts up a little bit of a fight with Jake Miller right back there.
Zachary Henry had a decent outing last week at Charlotte as well, gained spots in the standings, was 7th in points coming to this race, only 25 points back, and en route right now for his first win of the season in the Great Lake Truck Series. That's the good news. The bad news is the guy that he's trying to reel in for the regular season point standings championship, Hunter Madalinas, is currently slotted in the 2nd position. So right now he's en route to get that checkered flag, but he's not going to gain nearly as many points as I think he would have liked to today as far as the regular season championship is concerned.
Yeah, Henry having a great day here, looking to finally snag that first victory here today at Montreal, aka Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. But you mentioned from a points perspective, maybe not the greatest day, just because Madalinas is right there in the 2nd spot and has had a very strong day in the number 9 Monster Energy machine.
I have to chuckle too. I'm looking at the schedule here for the remainder of the regular season. It's almost a case of deja vu. You go back to the first road course race we had this season at Long Beach, feelings were hurt, and we had scores that were able to then be settled the following week at the last great Coliseum of Bristol. Well, here today, we've seen a lot of contact exchange. These drivers going to have a week to think it over before we go to, you guessed it, another short track. We're going to Five Flag Speedway. So, boy, very interesting. Back-to-back areas where we have a road course race and then immediately followed up by a short track.
Yeah, tempers. If anybody has a problem with anybody, you can take it to Five Flags next week, the home of the Snowball Derby. It should be a lot of fun there. It's always a good racetrack. Five Flags puts on usually some pretty good racing and usually causes a lot of accidents. So if you're wanting to watch accidents, tune into next week.
Oh yeah, going to be a good one here. Best battle right now for drivers on the lead lap would be for the final spot inside of the top 10. Brandon Barkuski with about 2.5 truck lengths back to Steve McLean. Nice run there for McLean. We haven't really talked much about him today. And Barkuski's done a very decent job here as well. Barkuski coming into this race 2nd in the overall point standings. We saw him have some pretty good starting track position in 6th. Kind of started to fade back in the early going, but he's been a mainstay inside the latter half of the top 10 all day long.
We've had some consistent drivers up here in the top 10. Hunter Brittle, very impressive performance from him so far, especially on the strategy that he's on. Hunter Brittle running in the 8th spot. But yeah, the driver I've been most impressed by has been King Cod. King Cod has really put on a good race, has driven through the field up to 7th, and yeah, I've been really impressed by his performance.
Well, I'll tell you what, Hunter Madalinas, a little bit of a heart-stopping moment for him moments ago when heading through the hairpin, Eliot Henderson had spun around just in front of him. able to traverse his way safely through. Henderson has gotten his 37 refired and continued on. But again, a heart-stopping moment for Hunter Madalinas. I don't know how many more heart-stopping moments he can take. He's had at least 2 or 3 here in the last 20 laps.
Here we are going to take a look at the incident here that happened right in front of Hunter Madalinas. Here you see the number 9 of Hunter Madalinas, and there's Henderson whipped around on the inside. Madalinas has to take a little bit of a wider exit just to make sure that he doesn't get hit by the number 37 of Bobby Carter, and he drives on by, running in the second spot, still 9 seconds back of Henry, almost 5 seconds in front of Ashton Lawson, the driver in the 3rd position. Zachary Henry started on poles, ran a great race, the number 12 machine, little over a lap from getting a little over a lap. He'll be back in victory lane possibly in this number 12 machine, looking to get that 2nd career victory in Great Lakes Truck Series competition. He has not won since Bristol 2 seasons ago. In that amount of time, he's competed for a championship, and he's finished 2nd 4 times here in the Truck Series, looking to finally get back to victory lane. Can he do it?
See the white flag this time. He's got 1 truck here ahead of him. That's the 22 of Michael Barbagelata. It does not look like he's going to catch the 92 of Michael Sensi here on this final lap. So if he can just make his way around this 22 safely, it should be clean sailing. He's been waiting for this sight for the last 15, 16 laps. The white flag waved over the hood of his number 12 Toyota Tundra. Zachary Henry just got to complete 1 more lap here at Montreal to pick up his first win of the season.
1 lap remaining for the Undercurrents Toyota for 2511 Racing. Zachary Henry, can he drive it around 1 more time? He has to be aware of the lap car in front of him, Michael Barbagelata. At this point, I would say just stay behind the number 22. He has all this gap behind him. He can really relax on this last lap and just make sure he gets it home.
Just driving that throwback scheme to Ryan Newman, the Rocket Man. He's been a Rocket Man here today as well. Yeah, he had his hands full with Alec Kalanick's, but after he was able to put the 26 in his rearview mirror, he just set sail, and nobody has been able to get to him in the closing stages of this race. Got to go through these heavy braking zones of 8 and 9 and then head towards that hairpin. Zachary Henry's not really put a wheel wrong today outside of maybe that little bit of contact between himself and Kalanick's around the midway portion of this race. He's driven a very smart race, a very clean race, and he's just a couple corners away from reaping the rewards.
Here comes the Undercurrents Toyota through the hairpin 1 last time. Going to come down the fastest part of the racetrack, the long straight. 1 last time. Zachary Henry just needs to make it through the last 2 turns, and he finally gets back to victory lane. He came so close so many times last season to getting to victory lane. He's came close multiple times this season to getting to victory lane. Almost won a championship last year, but he's looking to get back to victory lane today as he's coming through the last 2 corners. Here comes Zachary Henry as Zachary Henry wins Circuit Gilles Villeneuve here in Montreal, Canada. What a race from Henry, getting the Giant Tiger 200K. And Madalinas is going to come home 2nd, and Ashton Lawson will come home 3rd. A great performance from Alex Kalanick coming home in the 4th spot, and finishing out your top 5 is going to be Christopher Heller for 2511 Racing, finishing it out, and Cottle, a great race as well, not too far behind in 6th. Those are the 6 guys we were kind of talking about all day here, Seth.
And I think that they're going to be the 6 we'll be talking about quite a bit when we get to the road course playoff race at Watkins Glen. What a tremendous job by all these drivers here today, and we saw a lot of them exchange contact in this one. Could have easily thrown away top 5 finishes, but they raced hard, but they kept all their 4 tires on the racing surface, and they're going to get the good finishes as a result.
Here you see a battle for 10th. There's still some drivers trying to finish up their last lap. Here is Steve McLean and Brandon Burkuski battling it out for that 10th and final spot here in the top 10. Can the number 75 of McLean get to Burkuski in the final 2 corners? It looks like he's a little too far back. He's going to be hoping that Burkuski makes some sort of a mistake in these last 2 corners. Burkuski will hang on to that 10th spot and get a top 10.
McLean gave it a shot, right behind him. Gave it a heck of a shot there into that that final bus stop.
He sent it through there. I think he was just really hoping Barkuski might have went offline. If he went offline, he might have been able to get the pass, but Barkuski ran a very safe last two corners, able to get that top 10. And now we're watching Zachary Henry making his return to victory lane. It's been a long time since he's been to victory lane. It's been since October of last year, the last time he went to victory lane, and victory number 2. And it's long overdue for this 12 team.
And as I said, with Watkins Glen in the playoffs, I think you're going to have Zachary Henry very much so up in that conversation with the names like Nicholson and Madalinas and Lawson and Heller. Once we get to that point, might try and use that track as a springboard to be able to make his way into the round of 8. Only time will tell, but I think he's definitely turned a lot of drivers' heads here in the road course prowess he showed here today. Dominating performance, as we said, top of the board in practice, top of the board in qualifying, and one of 3 drivers that was out in front here today led the most laps. Just a dominating week here for driver number 12.
Zachary Henry able to get the victory at Circus Gilles Villeneuve. I was thinking this year, I was like, this season that Zachary Henry has to get back to victory lane this season. Question is, where is it going to be? And honestly, this probably would have been my last guess on where it would have been, but he gets the job done here at Circus Gilles Villeneuve, Montreal. A great win from a great driver of Zachary Henry. And we're going to try to get you some interviews momentarily, but what a race out there, Seth. What a race. And I feel like it could have been even better if maybe we saw Alex Kolonix up there competing. Had a very strong car early, unfortunately coming home 4th. Still a good performance from him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was surprised. I didn't really know just how much damage was going to play into the overall speed of a truck, but Alex kind of proved to us there with that front grille all crunched up that it didn't affect his speed at all. He was still up there mixing it up with Madalinas and Lawson and Heller, able to finish it up inside of the top 5. So a very impressive run by him. And as you said, a very exciting race. I mean, everywhere you look, there were battles going on the racetrack, whether it was up inside the top 5 or even back outside of the top 10. Different drivers for different positions, different goals probably coming into this race. Some to go out there and win, some to just survive in heading to Five Flags next week. Couldn't ask for anything better. It was a very, very good road course race here today in Canada.
A very great race. Put on some great racing. A lot of incidents, a lot of mistakes out there, but Zachary Henry was able to come out on top. And I think we're gonna try to maybe get some interviews here. I think we're gonna try to maybe bring in our 3rd place finisher. I think we're gonna try to bring in Ashton Lawson here today. Ashton Lawson, Kyle and Seth up in the booth. You got me?
Yes, sir.
Ashton, that was a great race, my man. Able to come home 3rd. What was maybe your strategy going into today? Because we were all kind of discussing pit strategy, 2 stops or 3 stops. Was the plan going into it to make that 2-stop strategy?
Hopefully, we were getting really close on fuel at the end of it, so it was a very close two-stopper, but that was always the goal.
Well, very successful. I didn't realize how close you guys were on fuel. I thought I maybe saw Madalinas getting pushed after the finish, but yeah, great race from you, Ashton. And you had a couple of run-ins with the number 26 of Alex Kolonix. What was maybe going on there? You guys were racing awfully hard throughout the event.
That was the only way you had to pass there. It was pretty difficult to get a run and somebody to give you space, so you had to use the bumper to get by.
We were definitely enjoying it up here in the booth. Some fantastic, hardcore racing. You really pride yourself on these road courses, Ashton, but we're getting really close to the playoffs. Is this maybe some practice for Watkins Glen here in a few weeks?
Hopefully, I think these tracks are two completely different beasts. With this one, you kind of gotta finesse it, and the Glen you're really attacking, so helps a little bit, but it won't make a major difference, I don't think.
Like I said, it was a phenomenal performance from you in the 24 team today. Anybody you have to thank for your top 3 performance out there tonight, Ashton?
I'd like to thank Spectrum, SB2, and Giant Tiger for coming aboard tonight.
Of course, we appreciate Giant Tiger sponsoring the event. Giant Tiger does a lot for Great Lakes and, of course, for the Spectrum guys. And we appreciate you talking to us, Ashton. We hope to talk to you again after next week at Five Flags.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That was the driver of the number 24, Ashton Lawson for Spectrum. And now I think we're going to try to bring in our runner up finisher. Ran a very strong race all day long. We call him the closer. Was not able to get the victory, but came home second today. Hunter Madalinas, Kyle and Seth up in the booth. You got me?
Yeah, I got you.
Hunter, that was a great race today, man. You seemed like you had a lot of speed, but there at the very end, it looked like Henry just got away from you. But what was maybe going through your mind in those last few laps, maybe with you and Lawson and Collinix battling in those last 10 laps?
Yeah, that was a very impressive race by Zach. Just wanted to first say that I was pushing, I think, my absolute heart almost the entire race and wasn't even matching his pace. So that was a really impressive drive by him. But yeah, I kept making mistakes after mistakes after mistakes, and on that first or that second pit stop, I didn't quite drive it in, and that allowed Ashton to get to my bumper. So when we were coming out of pit road, we were racing each other, and Alex just was so fast that he kept getting there and he kept battling, and that was, I think, the best racing I've ever had in this league on a road course. And yeah, it just came down to just who was keeping their tires clean but able to still push their truck, and I was luckily able to pull back away as those two fought behind me, and then after that it was just keeping it out front and managing the gap.
You definitely also had some close issues today. One in particular, we were looking. You kind of went Tony Hawk style over the curbs out of that last corner there, avoiding the number two machine. What had happened there coming off the last corner?
Yeah, so it was when me and Ashton were trying to catch Zach off pitting a lap early to try and have the pace to get ahead of him. And I was just going through the final chicane and I saw that the two car had spun out, but he just started coming on the track and I guess didn't pay attention to his relative because me and Ashton were right there and I had to jump the curb or kill him and kill me. So I decided I was just going to jump the curb, take the slowdown, which the slowdowns here are very broken. Um, so you lose so much time off of a slowdown that it I was luckily able to keep ahead of Ashton, but what it did was it slowed me and him down to the point where we weren't catching Zach. We weren't going to have a shot to catch Zach off a pit road. So I knew kind of at that moment after that issue that uh, we weren't going to win, but I've already resolved stuff with there, so no hard feelings there. It was just a simple misunderstanding by him.
Definitely some good racing and a good recovery after that almost incident. But next week we go to Five Flags. You really looking forward to that at all?
Um, it's not something I've looked forward to, but it's the same as we were here. So, my goal for next week is just come back out with the points lead and just keep it.
You've been running a strong season all season long. Came into this race as the points leader. And you're going to leave this race as the points leader. Anybody you have to thank for your performance out there, Hunter?
Yeah, thank you to everyone in this league. Put on a great race. That was a lot of fun on my end. Um, Thank you to Elliot Henderson for bringing me on to E95. I know I've been a big help to them as they've been to me. And thank you for you guys for broadcasting these races.
Well, we appreciate you talking to us, Hunter, and we hope to speak to you after next week at Five Flags.
Definitely.
That was our second place finisher, Hunter Madalinas. And now I think we're going to try to bring in our race winner after his return to victory lane, the driver of the number 12, Zachary Henry. Zach Henry, Kyle and Seth up in the booth. You got me?
Yes, sir, I do.
How does it feel to finally get that monkey off your back and get back to victory lane after all this time?
I gotta say, it feels pretty good. Just having all the speed I've had over the last 7-8 months in this league, and just being so close so many times, it's finally great to get one, and it's just hopefully I start clicking them off here, like I probably should be.
I was telling Seth exactly that moments ago. I was saying how impressed I've been with you over the last maybe year or so on how much you've improved as a driver. And coming into this season, I was expecting you to get back to victory lane, but I told Seth here that out of all the tracks, this is probably the track I least expected you to get back to the victory lane at. Did you expect to go into Circus Gilles Villeneuve and dominate the way you did?
No, not at all. I bought the track a week ago maybe, and then I just went to the Nathan Nicholson School of Road Racing, and I just put in the laps. I got comfortable. The more I'm doing this road racing thing, just the more comfortable I get, and it doesn't take me as long to figure out just how to drive on the track. It's at this point, it's more just kind of how to actually run the correct line and things along those lines. But Nathan Nicholson, he's always a big help every time for me personally. Every time I come to these road courses, and that's really the reason why I've been running so much better when we're making right-hand turns.
I was mentioning that during the broadcast. Of course, 2511 Racing have really, really work hard on these road course. Their road course program is super strong and headed, of course, by Nathan Nicholson, a very strong road course racer himself. And Henry able to put on a great performance out there, Zach. And next week we head to Five Flags. We're getting closer and closer to the playoffs. Looking forward to Five Flags at all.
Oh, you know that I really like short tracks. It's my favorite style of racing. The only thing though is it can be a bit of a crapshoot sometimes, But hopefully I'll be fast. I haven't ran there in a long time. Actually, I don't think I've ran there since I was a D class 2 years ago in the ARCA car. But it's a fun track. It's a good track, and hopefully it'll be a good clean race for everybody. All right, so we can get some green flag runs going, and yeah, I mean, I always look forward to short tracks, until I get wrecked. It's always fun to go to short tracks.
I was mentioning that earlier that Five Flags always produces some good racing, but if you want to see a lot of wrecks, expect that at Five Flags. It could be a wreck-filled race there, but it could also be a very clean race. We'll have to see when we get there, and wish the best luck to you then, Zach. But anybody you have to thank for your performance out there tonight?
Of course, the 2511 guys. We put in the practice this week to get comfortable, and I guess we were a little bit more than comfortable this time around. And we've had a ton of speed this season. I think this was race 7, and we've won 4 of the 7 races, and probably should have won a 5th at Bristol. So we've just been fast, and it's so much fun racing with these guys each and every week. Let's see, I always got to thank my wife, Undercurrents, of course, for riding on the hood of the truck again. Brandon for putting together an awesome 2005 Ryan Newman inspired Undercurrents paint scheme for me. And it's nice to finally put that in victory lane too. And then you guys for doing the broadcast.
Well, we appreciate talking to you, Zach. Appreciate you having in the booth, and go celebrate that win, man. Put on some undercurrents, pour yourself a drink, and just relax, man. You deserve it. It's been a long time coming.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, man. That was the driver, the number 12 Undercurrents Toyota for 2511 Racing, getting his second career victory in Great Lakes Truck Series competition here tonight, and his first on a road course, winning the Giant Tiger 200K here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. What a performance by Zach Henry, Seth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just asked him the question, did he expect to come in and dominate the way he did here today? And we kind of figured that it was the going to Nathan Nicholson's school that helped him to become the road racer we saw him be here today. And I'm telling you what, I think that we've got to have his name circled for sure once we get to Watkins Glen here in the playoffs, because he's definitely taken to heart everything that Nicholson has taught him, and he has definitely upped his game on the road courses. We know he's good at the short tracks. We know he's good at the intermediates. So he's got the complete package right now to maybe finally close out that championship deal that you talk about him just missing out on the last couple of seasons.
The championship for last season, wasn't quite able to get the job done after a very strong season. Here's our finishing results on today's event. Of course, Zachary Henry, your victor. Hunter Madalinas, aka the closer, coming home second. You have Ashton Lawson in third. Alex Kolonix making a rare appearance here in the number 26 machine. He'll be returning to the booth next week for Five Flags, but comes home with the 4th place finish here tonight. You have Christopher Heller in 5th, Cottle in 6th, Brett Kincott with a very impressive run in 7th. Hunter Brittle, the first driver on that 3-stop strategy, in 8th. RG Williams and Brandon Burkuski rounding out your top 10. As we go on to the next slide, we'll do some notables throughout. You have Michael Sensi, who was also on that strategy, coming home 12th. Henderson was on that strategy as well, but spun out late, ended up falling back to 14th. Then you got Gavin Fitzgerald and Jake Miller, who seemed like they had decent speed, but faced some issues, ended up finishing 15th and 16th. And then Rod Foz now ending out your top 20 here today. Onto the next slide, you have Austin Moore, who had a pretty decent run. It looked like early, but got involved in that big accident a couple laps in. Trent Curtis, who was very strong and actually got held up on pit road for a long period of time and ended up exiting the race, unfortunately. And then you have those 3 drivers that got destroyed early on in the event of Lewis Woodall, Emilio Paredes, and Tyler Mcclellan rounding out your field, 27th, 28th, and 29th. Phenomenal race here at Cirque Gilles Villeneuve, a phenomenal race. And now we're going to head to Five Flags, the home of the Snowball Derby. That should be a lot of fun next week, Seth.
I'm calling this the wild card race down towards the end of the regular season. A lot of series will sometimes throw in a super speedway. Of course, NASCAR Cup Series has Daytona for their final regular season race. This is going to be where there's going to be a lot of moving and shaking in the point standings. You might see an underdog driver go to victory lane. It's 2 different sides of a coin here. If we end up having a lot of cautions, it's going to turn to a race of survival. But on the flip side, if we end up having long green flag runs, then the race leaders are going to more than likely have to deal with lap traffic with how short of a course it is. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to definitely be interested to see how these drivers are going to approach that particular track next week, because I really think that if you're looking at a track that's going to shake some things up before we get to the playoffs, Five Flags is going to be that track.
Five Flags is definitely going to be that track. I wouldn't be surprised to see a surprise winner. Myself personally, I'm going to be on the racetrack racing, while Alex is going to be back in the booth joining Seth, and I'm looking forward to it. I like driving here in the Great Lakes Truck Series, but Five Flags should definitely be a interesting one. But any last thoughts before we send it out here, Seth?
No, just again, like we've said, tremendous run here by Zachary Henry here tonight. Saw a lot of the usual suspects up here towards the front that we see usually up towards the front in road course races. A couple of nice surprises inside of the top 10 as well. And so far this season too, the road course races have not disappointed. Long Beach was an incredible race from start to finish. Here today at Montreal, another incredible road course race. So I'm telling you what, don't sleep on Watkins Glen. I think that's going to be just as entertaining, especially since there's going to be some playoff points on the line in that one.
Yeah, Watkins Glen should be very entertaining, especially since most of these drivers have a lot of experience on Watkins Glen, so it should maybe close up the field that much more. We appreciate all of you for tuning in to today's broadcast on the Flatout Racing Network here at the Great Lakes Truck Series, Cirque Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Canada. Once again, congratulations to the driver of the number 12, Zachary Henry, on getting his second career victory in Great Lakes Truck Series competition, and we hope to see you next week, same place, same time here on the Flatout Racing Network as we race at Five Flags, home of the Snowball Derby. Once again, we appreciate every one of you who tuned in tonight, and have a great night.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope